So, myself, Shweta Chaudhary, Assistant Professor, Department of Agricultural Economics, Govind Ballabhan University of Agriculture and Technology, Panagar. So, today I am going to present in front of you regarding the policy. So, what policy is? A definition of policy is just simply it is a plan or course of action that is designed to influence and determine the decisions and actions. Means whatever government actions has been taken on, what are the outcomes of that uh, uh, actions of the government, whether those actions will be a rational outcome. See, a policy is typically described as a principle or rule to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. Means whatever government is planning for their citizens or for the people of the economy, whether that policy is able to give to their people, locality, a rational outcome. Can anybody tell about what is rational? What is the meaning of rational? This is rational outcome.
Maybe defined a defined outcome.
Hmm. Uh, it is not defined outcome. Rational means the thing that is profitable to you or good to you, that doesn't harm to you. Means this is the meaning. That but if you are consuming, say, suppose fruits and vegetables, or if you are taking non-veg, no, if you are taking eating mutton and all, then how much you are taking that in your diet. So you should be a rational consumer. You should know how proportion of each thing you have to consume. So that means rational. Means you are rationally taking out upon the thing. Okay? In a right way, in the appropriate quantity at appropriate time. Whatever, whatever things the government is taking, that is
Mohammed, please mute your mic because the voice is echoing.
that is giving a rational
Okay.
outcome. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Okay. Then this is public policy means whenever government has to define any policy for the public or for the people, then they undergo certain steps. The first step is the government see where the problem is, means problem identification. See if the problem is literacy, the government will focus on education policy. So we will find out the problem. What is the basic problem? Why the country is not developing? Why it is underdeveloped? Or why it is under the developing stage? Why not fully developed? So what are the factors that is responsible for the growth and development of the economy? Are what is the क्या हो सकता है? What can be the factors? Can anybody state how many students are there right now? Only Mohammed is there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Only Mohammed is there.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So the one thing is the different problems can be identified. It can be health issues. See, what is Human Development Index? That is, Human Development Index is developing the average achievements or basic dimensions of human life, like better education, better health, better standard of living. So government assists all these things, whether there is better education, better health standard, standard of living is good or not, and what are the factors relating for the upgradation of these things. So they took the step of finding out the problems in health sector, in education sector, in income sector. So then they identify their problems and then formulate the policy, and then it is implemented for the welfare of the society. And then not only implemented, we just the government evaluate the results, whether the literacy, if certain literacy policy has been introduced, whether it has given certain result in the literacy rate of the country has been increased or not by inducing that policy. If certain health policies, say suppose at the time of COVID, we have introduced many policies. Okay, at the time of COVID, we have introduced many policies to control the COVID scenario in our country or in African countries also. So, what was the impact analysis of that COVID policy? Whether the COVID was controlled at early stage or later stage, or how much time it has taken, what was the resultant of the budget that was allocated in controlling that COVID scenario. So all this is identification of the problem, formulation, implementation. We don't have to stop to implementation, then we have to evaluate also, we have to assess its result also. Whatever we do for certain profits. So here the profit of the government is social welfare. Whatever government will do, they will do in context of social welfare. Getting my point, Mohammed?
Yes, I get your point.
Okay. See, we have to be a dual process. Otherwise, just sharing the slide is nothing, anything. Matlab, that after some time I will be sluggishly reading on, na, if I don't get any response. Okay. So in between, we have to murmur something. Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that I get that you are getting something clear, Mohammed. Types of public policies. Then we have a public policy like distributive policy, redistributive policy, and regulatory policy. In distributive policies means what amount of government allocation is to be given to education sector, to fiscal sector means expenditures, what are the basic expenditures of the government, economic sectors like banking sector, taxation sector. So sector-wise allocations when done is distributive policy. When policies are made sectoral wise, that is distributive policy. Then redistributive policy means if we have something like income has been increased of the government, then how to reallocate that income wealth for the social welfare of the people that are below poverty line. So redistributive policy is something reallocation of money, right or power. Means whatever income has been generated, how now this income is redistributed for further upgradation of other sectors of the economy. If taxation, if there is good tax collection, now this tax then how we distribute it for the infrastructure development of the country. This is the meaning. Redistributive policy. If government has good revenue generation, how the government will reallocate this revenue generation for the development of the country. This is redistributive policy. Then example is it is obviously for social welfare, healthcare policies, immigration policies, civil right policies, and other social policies. Then major policy is regulatory policy that regulates the money in your economy. It's a regulatory policy. Like in India, we have monetary and fiscal policy. Monetary policy is somewhat in all the countries. Like in monetary policy, we regulate the different rates that is being given by the banks to the people, or the rates at which RBI or the central bank of the country provide loans to other commercial banks. So how these are being regulated for assessing the demand and supply of money in the economy, for contraction and expansion of money in the economy, what are the different regulatory policies? How the interest rate is being regulated. If you have to increase the investment in your economy, then you have to lower down the interest rate taken up by the banks for providing the loans. If you have to contract the investment from the economy, means you don't want much investments, then you will raise the interest rate provided for the loan for the further investments. So in this way, there are certain regulatory policies that controls the economy. Other policies are labor policy, fertility policy, criminal justice policy, environment protection policy. Like we have a great climatic change has been taken place. So whatever things are to be done is for the climatic protection. So we have to take care of environment protection policy also, besides other policies. So these are the regulatory policies. Is it clear, Mohammed? Is it clear? Mohammed, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you. It's clear. Trying to jot out some things.
Okay. Then important organ of policy making. There are four main organs of policy making, like we have constitutional framework, legislature, judiciary, and executive. Means we have to make a policy that is being designed by the government of the country. What is the legislature of the government? What is the judiciary framework of the government? Executive framework means we move to next slide. Here I can show you. See here, uh, erase this part, state government. Now move to executive part. What is the executive? What is the chief ministers, councils of ministers, and legislative means what is the legislative council, legislative assembly, and judiciary means different courts that are included here in the under the central or state government. Now, what are the characteristics of the policies? The characteristics of the policies are authoritative, enforceable, flexible and adaptable, visible, clear, transparent, and consultative. Am I audible? So shall I open my camera or I shall remain it off? If there is any recording issue, I can open it also. Okay, is my screen visible? Then come to the characteristics of the policies being taken up. Then policy implementation. Policy implementation is generally defined as a series of activities undertaken by the government and others to achieve the goals and objectives articulated in policy statements. Means we have to undertake the activities, we have to take the series of the activities that are taken by the government to achieve their various objectives that are being set up, that are being set up. Then implementation by the American author is to designate all the activities involving the recursion of the piece of legislation. Means whatever is being decided by the government, that is to be implemented. Instead, we define policy implementation as the set of process after the programming phase that are aimed at complete realization of the objectives of the public policy. Then therefore, a working definition of policy implementation can be stated as accomplishment of policy objectives through the planning and programming of operations and projects so that agreed upon outcome and desired impacts are achieved. Policy implementation is not an easy concept to define, but it is just whatever what happens if we try to achieve something. Then we have policy implementation approaches. Mohammed, are you there?
Yes, I
Yes,
can hear
ma'am.
you. I'm with you.
I wish as the recording is going on, so in between any time we can put on the cameras and then so that it can be a good recording over there. And then you move on to policy implementation approaches. Policy implementation can be viewed as transformation of design into action, series of consequential steps, process, progress, interaction, negotiation between those seeking policies goal and those who actually implementing it. Means in what way we are undertaking this policy approaches, how we are implementing this policy, what are the approaches. So there are two or three basic approaches: the top down model, bottom up model, and hybrid model. See, before moving ahead, I will tell you, top-down model is something in which you have government has to take steps and it imbues it to the lower class of people. While bottom-up model is something that comes from the grassroots level, from village level, and it is induced up. That is bottom-up model, as the name indicates. So we can move to the slide. It is top-down model. Policy implementation starts with a decision made by the central government. This type, this type of policy supporters see policy designers as a central actor and concentrate their attentions on the factors that can be evaluated at national level. Means these policies are made at national level and then it is induced to the lower people. So top-down model means it is made at national level. This approach is based on traditional Thomas public administration model and beginning at the top of the policy process has focused on understanding how implementers have achieved policy goals by the authorities. So this is mainly introduced by the government at central level. Then next is bottom up. This was developed in early 1950s. Several studies have showed that political outcomes that did not always sufficiently relate to original policy objectives. Sometimes what happens, the government has introduced some policies, but whatever government has thought of, that has not been implemented. Means it has not reached to the grassroots level, whatever policies we are doing. See, we can go for organic farming in our country or in your country, but government has initiated several programs. But we doesn't know whether the people at the village level is able to influence or get the source of that incentives that government is giving to raise that organic farming. So this is what it means. Whatever the policies or incentives government is giving for certain policy, whether that incentive is reaching to the poor people or not. So if not, for them, bottom up model has been developed, means we create such a policy that emerges from that grassroots level or it initiates from village itself, not at central level. This is the bottom up model.
Ma'am, the Suleiman is asking in the chat box. Is asking the first method how it is to be evaluated.
Which one?
See in the chat box, ma'am.
Okay, okay, wait.
Uh,
The first method how it's being evaluated. The top method, no? This method, top down model.
Yes, that method.
This is decision is making by the central government. This type of policy supporters see policy designers means, suppose if you have certain problems in the marketing of any commodity, suppose price fluctuations are being done, then what is the policy that is implemented by the government? What should government do in that case? So government can initiate many e-marketing portals. So this is how the government evaluated, seeing the problems for the people of the community or the economy. They induce that problem, find it the problem identification, and then finding the solution of that, and then getting a policy for it. This is what government do at central level. There are different surveys are being done for assessing these things. There may be formal survey, informal survey. I will be telling you in the in the later half, the methods of this. Then bottom-up model. In bottom-up model, they rejected the ideas that policy are defined at central level. and that implementers need to stick to these objectives as neatly as possible. The bottom-up model emphasizes target group and service delivers, means these only focuses on the poor people, while top-up model that is focused on the at state level, at district level, but these are introduced at village level. See, we can see a comparison here. Initial focus is centralized and government decisions. Like if we have a new pollution policy has to be introduced. It is introduced seeing the previous data that the government has got through surveys or through census reports. The top-down model is introduced through census reports or through the surveys that is being taken by the government. On the basis of that, they introduce a new policy. While bottom-up policy is how to control that pollution. Bottom-up means if there is any problem, how to control that problem. What are the measures that can be taken? Like there are now mobile ATMs to assess the money, or we have now e-banking system. So we have seen the problem of this in at the time of COVID. So everything is now electronic. So this problem was identified and it is now reached to the bottom up. So this is a bottom up is that introducing the mobile ATMs at village level, or telling them or training them about how to use internet banking. This is all bottom up things. And top up is just you are introducing any new policy over there. Then implementation strategy and processes is this is guidance from political decisions to administrative or executive network. Means things flow from the higher authorities to the lower authorities in top down, from top down and from government out to private sector. This is from bottom to the upside. This is evaluation is the focus on the extent of attainment of formal objectives may look at other political significant criteria and attended unintended consequences, but these are optional. These want to say कि we evaluate the things by seeing the various resultants of that policy, whether the pollution has been now controlled or not by introducing a new policy. While this is basically taking care of various issues that are being arises in the poor areas. Now, some things are not being resolved even by both top and bottom up approaches. Then a new model was being created, that is hybrid model. In this hybrid model, the, this is a merger of both top down and bottom up approaches. This means that the macro level variables of the top down model are tied up with the micro level bottom uppers. We suppose national income is now being integrated with the farmers' income. So national is your macro level variable and micro level variables is your farm income. So if the farm income is increased, obviously the national income will increase. So this has given a good result if we tie up both top down and bottom up approach. So if you have to increase your national income, you have to tie up with the farm income, you have to undertake the policies or give the policies that will boost the farmers' income by giving them subsidies, by giving them various supports uh, on infrastructure development, by giving them various fertilizers on subsidies on fertilizers, etc., equipment, machinery, support. So this is how you can tie up both and get a hybrid model. So this is a better approach than top-down and bottom-up approach. Then coming to policy implementation style. Is there any other students or only one is there? Okay, no problem. Then policy implementation styles is again those things that you have to find out the agenda. Then you have to find out, you have to create a formulation, then adoption, implementation and evaluation as we have discussed earlier. So style means whether you want to take up the policy as cooperation or coercion. Cooperation means it should be for mutual profit, means it should be beneficial for both government and the peoples of the economy. Or you have just forced any policy that you have to do this. Besides seeing the pros and cons of that policy to the people, whether the people want that policy or not. Uh, this is the two styles of policy implementation, coercion and cooperation. So we basically believe that the policy should be cooperation mode. Man means it should mutually benefit both government and the people of the economy. Then come to implementation agencies. In a country like India, the concerned ministry is primarily responsible for ensuring overall implementation of its own policy. Means what are the agencies that are responsible for implementation? There is the government. Government is there. Beside government, there are many other NGOs are there. Organizational structures are there. Self-help groups are there. We have now emerging FPOs are there. Suppose policies are being government has now the basic problem in countries is small and fragmented landholdings. So for those they get a small and fragmented landholdings, they get a small marketable surplus. So if they get a small marketable surplus, they are not able to get good prices because of the small production, small. Uh, so to overcome this, government has given a concept. Earlier we have cooperatives, now we have FPOs, farmer producer organization. So seeing the problem of the poor people or small farmers, the government has initiated the policy of FPO. For this, the government certain provide certain funds to that FPOs to run them better position. So these are the policies that are implemented. So several self-help groups are being imposed or involved in FPO formation. We have small farmers agribusiness consortiums are there. Those who want to become an entrepreneur, for them we have this FPO. So there are several stakeholders or organizations, government and non-government, that are being involved in policy implementation. Getting Mohammed, are you getting? Is my speed okay?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I'm going okay, or shall I go slow?
So it's okay. You're pretty good.
Okay. Then come to the implementation metrics. Any idea about implementation metrics? Any idea about metrics? Do you know something about metrics?
Ma'am, two more students have joined, so you can also come in the main meeting and then
Okay,
yeah, can take their.
okay. Two more are there. So, can anyone tell what do you mean by metrics? Simple, what do you mean by matrix? Anyone? Mohammed or Yudan? And okay. So matrix is whatever action plans you have taken. How this is your action plan. Means whatever planning you have done, how you will implement that plan. What type of what budget you are allocating for it. From where you will get that budget. From how you will allocate that budget. So this is all what implementation matrix means. You are just giving your action plan with implementation matrix like this. Suppose this is the policy. If we have suppose COVID policy, then what actions you are taking to control that COVID scenario? Who is responsible to control health department or whatever doctors or medical? This is responsible. What is the responsible department for that thing? What is the time frame? Means the government has given within 6 months we have to control the COVID in our country. So this is the time frame given. Then what is the budget? Suppose 2 crores, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. This much or crores of the budget is being allocated for that controlling of the COVID in the country within a month, a few months. Then what is the budget source? What is the status? This is all about the policy metrics, implementation metrics, action, responsible person, time frame, budget source, and status. If suppose you have to see economic development or party, or you have to see the public health, then how these are dependent on transport, what is the energy consumption of these types of policies, how foreign affairs are being affecting party or economic development or climate change, what are the impacts of these on these policy areas. This is all about the policy implementation metrics. Then we have implementation problems. We have conceptual problems, we have political problems, we have administrative problems. Moving upon conceptual problems, government conducting public policies in order to improve the quality of the life find they are restricted by the weak extractive capacity of the state in relation to the economy as well as by any other resources through corruption. Means what is the basic concept regarding the implementation? Implementations stop due to ongoing revisions of policy. Means if you have any other ongoing policy, if you want to introduce new, then if government has asked for the revision of the previous policy, then there will be no implementation of new policy because already fund is flowing for that policy. So government has
Ma'am, yes, to say that the voice is little less means, can it be a bit louder?
okay,
Yeah, if it is possible.
okay, okay.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, it is better now, ma'am.
Okay, I will speak much louder now. Then implementation stopped due to ongoing revisions of the policy, lack of monitoring and coordination mechanisms among concerned ministries, departments or agencies, inadequate directives from the high-level committees to local-level implementing agencies, insufficient measures for empowerment, enforcement also delays policy implementation. Means what are the bottlenecks of policy implementation? Like if you have the revisions of the policy, if there is no proper coordinations among the state and central government, or directions has not been given properly, or whatever you want to implement, you doesn't get better infrastructure or sufficient measures are not being supported to implement those policies. Suppose e-marketing has been introduced in a country, but for promotion of e-marketing, the farmers do not have the access towards the internet facility. So this is insufficient measures. This is what I mean. The measures or the facilities are not being given so that the proper implementation can be done for that policy. Clear? Then tools and techniques of policy implementation. Am I clear up till now? Nobody is replying. What can be different policy implementation problems? Is this clear? Mohammed, are you there? Then Ahmed, okay, I will just continue. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Because of certain internet issues over there. Then we have discussed about implementation problems. Then tools and techniques of policy implementations. There is a list of implementation problems, like if proper fund is not all being given for the policy implementation, or there is no proper regional cooperation and coordinations among the state or the country, or there is a lack of knowledge among the implementation agencies. So there are many a list of implementation problems. Then come to tools and techniques of policy implementation. Suppose policy is being implemented. Now, what are the tools by which we see whether it is a good decision taken by the government, or it is rational decision, or it is irrational decision, or it is not profitable for the economy, or it is not giving good impact to the economy. This is done through performance indicators. See, if I am teaching you something, what are the performance indicators of my teaching? Anyone? This is a very simple question. If I am teaching you something, through how I can get my performance indicators? Anyone? See, if I evaluate you, take certain oral test, or by how somehow this will be the your performance indicators. So, for performance indicator, the government collects the data, like formal surveys are being done, reporting are being done, tracking is being done to see the impact of various policies. Participation of key stakeholders in defining indicator is very important. Means how the people are participating in that policy. Then logical framework approach. Second one is logical framework approach. In logical framework approach, we see we see a type of log frame is being created. We create a log frame, we create a work of the all the activities, we compile the things in 1 or 2 pages, and then this is logical framework approach, how the policy is being implemented, what are the activities to be done, whether the activities is to be taken weekly, monthly, quarterly, what amount of allocation is being done on health sector, allocation is done quarterly, weekly, monthly, yearly. That is a logical framework approach. In this, we summarize the designs of complex activities, assist the preparation of detailed operational plans, provide objective basis for activity review, monitoring, and evaluation. So, whatever complex activities is being taken up, how they are being taken up, the detailed operational plan is being shown in log framework approach. Then theory-based evaluation, this is similar to the log frame. Basically, we give a framework or layout of something, that is log frame approach. We have just given the this policy has been introduced, and the effect of this policy is it has controlled the poverty of our country. It has raised the education or improved the literacy rate of the country. So this is log frame. See, we have just stated see how the policy has impacted the economy. But theory basis, what are the factors? In this, we also give the factors that are responsible in improving the literacy. See, success of the government program to improve the literacy level by increasing the number of the teachers. So this is the law frame. See, we have improved the education. But what are the factors that are responsible for improving the literacy? That is input. Number of the teachers has been increased, number of the e-classrooms has been increased, number of the textbooks has been increased. So when we study all the factors that is hindering or uh, that is helping in development of that policy is the theory-based policy, theory-based method. Then formal surveys method. In this, we just survey out the things, see what is going on, desired, describe the conditions for a particular community and give their results. जैसे कि we make a questionnaire on certain things and then we find out whether the people of that community had, is educated up to 10th level or up to 12th level or graduate. So if we get a number of graduate at 60%, then we see that the education policy which we have introduced has given good results. So this is just taking up a survey and finding out the results. If we have to find out the factors, then we should go for theory based. If we have to see the only impact, क्या impact पड़ा, what is the impact of that policy, whether it has a good impact, go to log frame approach, and this is just performance indicator, seeing that whether it has performed well or not. So these are the different list performance indicators, then logical framework, then theory based, and then formal survey. Then one more is there, rapid appraisal method. Just going in that area and finding out their questions and giving the solutions there only. But this is a low-cost way to gather the views and feedback of different stakeholders in order to respond to the decision maker need for information. But the limitation is that this may be less valid, less reliable. Sometimes people doesn't give a right information. Suppose we go to a certain farm, we ask them their income. So farmers doesn't usually give their income as it is. They are afraid of or scared of telling their original or real income. So we have to ask them, you how much you have produced, how much for how much you what is the selling price of your production. So we can multiply the produce and their selling production and then get their income or what else you do besides farming. So we can gather the information and then take out the resulting. So this is rapid appraisal methods, gathering the information and then taking the things out of that. Then participatory means you will be involved with them in that locality for training them or providing them skills, capacity building, and then gathering the information. Suppose you have gathered the information in that locality, the people are not getting a better market access facility. So you start creating a retail outlets facility or cool chain facilities over there. So you will be training the people that they can develop their cool chains or retail outlets, get the fund from the bank, nearby locality, helping them to get their funds, helping them to create storage structures by getting the funds from the government or developing poly houses and this much of subsidy, suppose 33% of the subsidy is being given for the poly house development in our areas. So getting providing these information to the farmers and not only providing but assessing them, making them available the information is participatory rapid approach. This is a multidisciplinary teamwork. This is a community approach. This is a SWOT analysis. You find out if this area need support. So thank you.
Hello, hello, doctor.
Yes,
I have a question on the chat box.
yes, okay. I can wait. Is rapid appraisal same as immediate evaluation at every step of policy? No. Rapid appraisal is done only after the policy implementation. When the policy is finally implemented, then only we can do rapid appraisal. Something you have done, now you have to see the results of that thing. In between is not a rapid appraisal. Okay, can
Okay,
take
that
that.
is clear. Thank you very much, doctor.
What what is the socio-economic changes that has been brought about by rapid appeal? So things are being done after this is the post implementation approach, not pre. Then come to public expenditure tracking survey. This is diagnostic or monitoring tools to understand the problems in budget execution. Suppose funding is being done, if full funding is not being reached for that policy. Suppose irrigation policy the government has given 1,000 crores rupees and it has not been disseminated. Then the government may ask why it is not being allocated or where you have allocated. Show your allocations. What were the shortfalls? What were the leakages? Why it was not being implemented or allocated. So this public expenditure tracking survey. If some policy is not proved to be fruitful, then one can go for public expenditure tracking survey. You can see whether the policy is not being implemented well because the government has given so much of fund, but the fund has not been actually reached to the poor farmers or the people of the country for whom they are released on. So you can see discretion in the allocation of resources, shortfalls, and predictability of public funding. So this is public expenditure tracking. How the budget is allocated, if not well allocated, why not, what can be the reasons behind. These track the flow of public funds and determines the extent to which the resources actually reach the target group. The surveys examine the manner, quantity, and timings of release of resources of different levels of the government, particularly to the units responsible for delivery of social services such as health and education. So, how much of the money is being allocated for education and health, whether it has reached to the grassroots level or not? If not, then why? This is public expenditure tracking service. The most important is cost benefit analysis because whenever we do investment, see in our personal life also, whenever we do investment, we see what cost we incur in doing that thing and what profit we are getting out of it. So this is the very important measure of policy implementation or assessment is cost benefit analysis. Means we are comparing the cost with the cost with the profit that we generate after implementing. This should be a balance or benefit should be more. This is used for finding out whether you have efficiently allocated your resources, whether the investment which you have done for your project is optimally invested. Means suppose you are investing money uh, for education purpose or for cleanliness purpose or for the health of your community, health purpose. Then whether the people are even normal of your community, they are not suffering from any disease. Of your, if you have allocated money for the polio control of your country, then whether the children suffering from polio is diminishing, is not increasing. So you have to see all the costs, whatever what cost the government has given on controlling the polio injection. So what amount of investment the government has done for polio medicine. Whether in contrast to that, the benefits, the beneficiaries number has been increased or not. Like in our country, our country is now the polio-free country. So this is we have taken out the cost benefit analysis and it is proved worthy. So it's a good policy for that for our country. This is cost benefit analysis. But limitations, there are always certain limitations. Maybe some data that we require are not available and which require a high human and financial resources. One should able to assess the cost and benefits very well. He should be skilled of working out. He should know how to work out the cost and benefits. Then impact assessment. last is impact assessment and its approaches. So right now is there any query? At the end, I will again be giving a recalling of all the things which from the starting. Then impact assessment and their approaches. Impact assessment means if you have implemented a policy, what is the consequence or what is the result of that policy? Whether it is economically, socially, culturally, environmentally good for your economy or not. This is what impact assessment is in short terms. Because a thing can be socially good, economically good, but now we also evaluate the environmental impacts of each and every policy. So, how you will measure impact? That is through environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment, health impact assessment, integrated impact assessment. These are certain methods of impact assessments. Then there are approaches for impact assessments. The process of impact assessments involves the isolation of activities or events that are most likely to affect the business, finance, and operations. So the choice of impact assessment approaches is compounded by multiple criteria of evaluation. Just hold on for a while. Sorry for the interruptions. Am I audible?
Yes.
Then approaches to impact assessment is we were here. There are descriptive approaches and modeling approaches. Descriptive approaches is probably the most heterogeneous approach. These methods are mainly empirical and make use of both quantitative and qualitative data. They involve the collection and analysis of ex post information on particular policy intervention, the way in which it has been implemented. Means you are just describing the things how they are being taking place. This is descriptive approach. How the things, if the cleanliness, if you have been hygiene, if you have policies implementation for hygiene control, then what are the ways by which you can control hygiene? Developing toiletries over the area that are being there is required areas. So this is descriptive approach. By modeling approach means you are giving a appropriate solution of each and every problem. Means if you get an income of, if you want to get an income of 1 lakh rupees over an entrepreneur, over an enterprise, then how much you will invest in that enterprise. Giving the accurate results of that thing is empirical analysis when it's done is modeling approach. And the descripting is just describing the things and that's it. It's a descriptive approach. The advantages of modeling is that it provides an explicitly theoretical explanation of causal chain linkages. Like so, I will be telling you about what are the different tools or modeling tools like randomized experimental design, non-randomized experimental designs. We have different techniques. Now, different models are there like scoring model, economic surplus model, programming model, simulation, and econometrics. These are the models of implementations. Description is just describing upon the things that you have to open toiletries, or for education you have to open the schools, or for if you have to improve the marketing you have to increase the retail outlets, or e-trading is to be done. But modeling means the things is being given how you will do. The analysis, the analytical approach is being given to you in modeling approach. Now scoring method, first one is this is scoring method summarize the available relevant information about consumer and reduce the information into a set of ordered category that foretell an outcome. It is commonly used method which involves choosing a set of indicators on which impacts are measured, means with and without, before and after. This is what scoring method model is. Seeing the scenario of literacy rate in your country before education policy, and seeing the scenario of literacy rate in your country after the education policy. If after the education policy literacy rate has been improved, then it means we have scored good. If it is not improved, means we have not scored good. So it has positive impact if you have scored good. If it has negative impact if you have not scored good. This is what scoring method is. Scoring model have the advantage that they can be administered in a relatively shorter period of time. These are transparent, just seeing the impacts, giving the weights to the model indicators. Then economic surplus model. In economic surplus model, it is again an ex ante impact analysis. See what amount of income is being generated. If you see the partial equilibrium model of supply and demand in the market. So what is the economic surplus model? See, we see the change in the producer surplus. Means if implementing the after implementing certain policies to raise the income of the farmer, certain subsidies or incentives is given to the farmers for their production. Whether it is increase the producer surplus or not, if certain discount is being given or certain support is given to the farmers, after that is the economic surplus or economic value or production has been increased or not. This is what we see in economic surplus method. So this is a good method. See if you are getting additional money from your home. So what is the impact of your additional money which your father is giving to you? Whether you are utilizing it in your education or in your fun. So if you are further using in your education or in upgrading your knowledge, then it can be economic surplus. Otherwise, it cannot be a. It is just a surplus that is given to you for utilization. Getting? So this is how we see. Then programming model. We have several programming models. Like programming models, we see within a given within a given resources how you can minimize the cost of farming or maximize the production of the farming within the given limited resource of land, labor, and capital. This is what programming model is. See, if certain amount of land is given to the farmers or labor is given or capital is given, by using those land, labor, and capital, how much of the income a farmer can generate within a given time period. This is what like LP programming models. So budgeting is different and LP is different. Can anybody tell what is the difference between linear programming and budgeting? Do you know these concepts, linear programming and budgeting? Anyone? No. See, budgeting is if you get some money and you have to use all that money in satisfying your wants. That is budgeting in simple words. Somebody has given you money, you are utilizing that money and to satisfy your wants. That's it. But LP is linear programming is you are optimally utilizing that money. Means you are waiting for certain offers, schemes in the market, and then you are using that money, and even you are getting all the things but saving that money also. Means you are saving that part of money. If suppose you go to a branded showroom, buy a Puma shoes of 5,000 rupees. Now your another friend has been waited for a festive season and buy the same shoes at 3,000 rupees. Then he has saved 2,000 rupees. This is optimum use of the resources. Means you have satisfy your same want but with less use of the resources. So this is optimization. This is what programming model is. And budgeting is what is and we have utilized maximally is budgeting. This is the difference an economist should always know. Optimally utilizing and maximally utilizing the thing. Optimally utilizing the things means you have fully maximally utilizing the things means you have fully utilized the resources for maximizing your profit. But LP means you have optimally utilized. You have still saved few resources and just reached that satisfaction level. This is optimally utilizing the resources. Getting okay. Then we have simulation models. In simulation model, it's just trial and error method. We keep on adding things, we keep on removing things, and we see what is the impact of those things on policy implementation. The advantage of simulation model lies in the flexibility in incorporating various many factors that have a binding effect on policy formulation. So these require a great time, skill, and data. And then we have various econometric models. Econometric models means if we have to see the impact, if we have to see the impact, if we have to see the impact of anything, suppose uh, production is being affected by the labor utilized, the irrigation provided, the land given, the skill of the people. So all these factors are affecting how much. What is the percentage rate or of these factors on the level of production is what econometrics models we see. Or what are the indicators? What are the things factors catering demand? So demand depends upon the income of the consumer, price of the commodity, price of the related commodities. So if we have to see the percentage of impact of income on demand of particular commodity, then we have econometric models. If we have to see the percentage of change in demand due to change in income, or percentage of change in demand due to change in the price of the commodity, we go for econometric models. So these are certain models. So I will give a recall from the starting. So in starting we have studied about what policy is, then we have studied about the procedure of policy making for the public, that there is a need for problem identification before starting any policy, and then there is a need for even evaluating that policy. Then we have studied about distributive, redistributive, and regulatory policies. Distributive policies is for a particular sector. Redistributive policies when you get additional income of the government, how is it is to be distributed for social welfare, like for health, education, then it is redistributed. And regulatory policies is like a supportive policy to how the organization is being run, like labor policy, fertilizer policy, how they should be run, what are their controlling or regulatory policies. Then there are different organs of policy making, like government is there, the whole sole maker of policy. Then who will control? among the policy making. So we have judiciary body, legislature, and executive body. Then we have studied about what is policy implementations. Then there are different approaches like top-down approach, bottom-up approach, and hybrid model. Among these, hybrid model is the best model to study to study the policy implementation or to see the impact of policy implementation. Then we have studied the style of policy implementations can be coercion or cooperation, and we believe in cooperation style of policy implementation. Then implementation agencies can be government agencies, non-government agencies, departments, ministries, and all. Then implementation metrics we have studied. It is just an action plan. Implementation metrics is just an action plan. It is just an action plan. What you are doing, if you are doing something, what are the actions taken by which department, who is responsible for it, what time is given, what budget source, and what is the status. This is very important. Then we have studied about the different problems while you implement any policy. What problems can be faced, like conceptual problem, political problem, and administrative problems. Then we have studied about the tools and techniques of policy implementations. The tools and techniques of policy implementations are different tools and techniques are there. Like we have first one is performance indicators. Then we have logical framework. We have to create a log book of policy. Then theory based in which you can find out the factors that are responsible, that who's responsible for the good implementation of policy. Then formal surveys, then rapid appraisal method, then participatory rapid appraisal in which you have to participate, you have to provide them skills, trainings, and then assess the impact of policy. And then you have to track their expenditures if the policy is not proved to be fruitful. Then you have to see their relationship between cost and benefit proportion, whether it is more than one, equals to one. It should be equals to or more than one for the successful implementation of policy. Then you have impact assessment approaches. In this, we have studied various social impact assessment, health impact assessment, environmental impact assessment. Then there are descriptive and modeling approaches. In modeling approaches, we have studied about different models like scoring model, economic surplus model, programming model, simulation model, and econometric. Among these depends upon the data which you have. See, what is the availability of data depends upon the choice of the model. So this is all about today's lecture. So last you should know about monitoring and evaluation approaches of policy implementation, impact assessment and its various approaches, and what are the choice indicators for the impact assessment tools. So this is all for today. Anyone, if any query is there, you may discuss right now or in chat box. This is all from my part. Thank you everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. I have a question on the chat box with regards to assessment tools. I was asking if there are softwares that can be used for this assessment, particularly the simulation model and all those. Are there softwares that can be used to
Yeah,
work on the model?
yeah, we have linear programming model. Simplex method is there. Lindo programming is there. We have softwares for this uh, implementations, assessing this. We have we have econometric models. Our technique is being used for this.
Okay. Yeah. My second question on the chat box was having a case study, an agric-based case study. on
It
this
will be
topic.
very nice to have an
Very interesting.
experienced case study on the selective topic. Okay. In the coming lectures, I will give you a case study on the required part. So you want on the models a case study.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor. That's all from me.
In the coming lecture, I will be giving it to you. Okay. So you want a case study on impact assessment. You want a case study on impact assessment.
Yes, yes, yes. With the softwares, how and they are being used.
Okay, okay. In the coming lectures, I will be telling you. There are different tools and programmings are being used. The case study right now I haven't brought up, so I will be bringing in the coming lectures. Okay, like in linear programming, linear programming, we have Lindo programming. To find out the optimization techniques or optimum results, we apply Lindo programming. For econometric models, we apply R techniques, capital R techniques. So we have different models that are used, but example right now I don't have. I will be giving you in the coming lectures. No problem. Okay. Any other query? So this is all for today. Thank you everyone. So we will be meeting in the next week with the next lecture, and I will be giving you all the requirements which you have desired right now for case studies, examples. Okay. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, ma.
Okay. Thank you. Nice meeting you all. Bye.